Almost 2 years ago, Valve released the Steam Deck. There was already smaller company doing the old NLPC before them, like GPD or Aya Neo, but often the price was over $1,000 Canadian, so it always been a niche product. The Steam Deck released for half that amount, and it changed what we could expect from that category. In June, Asus released the ROG Ally Z1 Extreme. This is now a $700 NLPC, taking its inspiration from the Steam Deck, but trying to improve on most of the hardware. It's been almost a month since I bought a certified open box at Geek Squad during the Black Friday special. I was curious how would be the unit. Was it just a marketing name? Or if someone returned it because of the SD card issue? The console looked perfect, and I couldn't see any cosmetic issue. Though I only had one of my 3 SD cards that I tested that were detected. More on this later. The console also came with a paper plastic stand, which is a good option because there's no stand at the back, and also a 65-watt charger. The hardware feels sturdy. I like the RGB around the joystick, but you can turn them off. The screen is bright enough, Asus say around 500 nits. You have 2 micro buttons at the back of the unit, and I really like the feel of them. Also, Asus did a great job with the fan noise. You mostly won't hear it at 10 watt or 15 watt, but it will be loud at 25 or 30 watts. The SD card on top is an issue. After 20 seconds putting the SD card in it, I could feel the card being already warm when I got it out. The face buttons are a little clicky, and reviewers talk about them being stuck, but I didn't have this problem yet. Asus built gaming laptop for years, and their expertise show. The Ally looked like a mini white Zephyrus G14 laptop. The build quality felt great, and the console is lighter than I expected at 608 grams. I really like the hardware, but it's not perfect. It is a version 1. I was also really surprised about the quality of the front speaker. They did support Dolby Atmos. Pro tip: if you lower the power usage like I did with the 7-watt profile and you start hearing crackling, turn off Atmos. I would hear it at 80s if I would put it in 720p 60Hz, but with only 7 watts. At 10 watts, everything is fine for that game. I also wish there would be more than one USB port on the unit, depending if you want to charge it on top or bottom. It also has a proprietary connector for the mobile XG GPU, which is Asus eGPU. I didn't test it because they don't sell in Canada, and it's almost like 2,600 Canadian for a mobile 4090. The Ally is also a full Windows 11 machine. Asus' big pitch is that you can play all your game on it: Steam, Origin, Epic, or Game Pass. You can install any store or any software that you want. But it comes with a price to pay: Windows 11. I have nothing against the OS, but they really need a low mobile version of it, with a lot of service remove or turn off. On first boot, after a couple minutes, you are greeted to a standard Windows 11 wizard. After that, you will have BIOS update, Windows update, Armory crate update. It took me almost a day and 4 battery cycle to get going. It's a very strange first contact with your device. Armory crate has all the settings you want to change. Also grouping your game in different store in one place. I made there a custom 7-watt profile. You can change the fan curve. By default, you will have 4 power profile: 10 watt silence, 15 watt performance, 25 watt turbo. And if you plug the Ally with the 65 watt charger that come with the unit, you can get a 30 watt turbo. I mostly use it to change the setting though for Armory Crate, going directly in the launcher when I need, like Steam Deck or like. And didn't use Armory Crate a lot. I mostly go straight to the launcher I want, like Game Pass. It happens sometimes that if you remove the game would still stay in Armory Crate, but they seem to have patched it now. The control center is a more successful implementation. You can change on the fly the resolution 720p, 900p, or 1080p, and the refresh rate 60 Hz or 120 Hz. You can turn on or off VRR. So most of the settings you will use will be there, but you can custom it. By default, I was missing the button to switch to gamepad or keyboard. While waiting to all my game to install, I play a little Forza Motorsport on the cloud. I could feel a little lag, but overall it was a good experience. So what is a Ally anyway? Well, you get a Zen 4 processor versus a Zen 2 for the Steam Deck. You get 8 core and 16 thread CPU. You get 16 gig of RAM at 6,400 megahertz. You got a 512 gig SSD. But the star of the show is the screen. 1080p, 120 Hz, and supporting V. You get the same 40 watt hour battery that the Steam Deck, but now you need to play the latest game on it. Originally, the Z1 Extreme was selling for 900 Canadian, but a couple of weeks ago, Valve released the Steam Deck OLED. You get an OLED screen, 90 Hz refresh rate, and a 50 watt hour battery for 690 Canadian. Asus counterattack by lowering the price for 200, so you can get the console now for 699, or you can get an open box at Best Buy for 599. That plays the Legion Go in the toughest position. The console is still 950, and you get a larger screen, 8.8 with higher resolution. You also get a terabyte drive, but now you are in the pricing of a laptop. But now the ROG Ally is 250 to 350 cheaper. So how does it play anyway? Well, great if you can find the right setting. Though I can see why a lot of reviewers have a love and hate relationship with the device. When you can launch the game you want to play, especially a AAA game like Cyberpunk or Starfield, it feels magical. That you're able to play them on the go or running them locally. But most of the time, you'll spend the first 15 minutes in the menu adjusting the setting to find the right balance between FPS and wattage. Now, it's not something that is unknown for a PC gamer. The color are vibrant with that screen. Playing 80s looks so good on it. You can always get away with like dropping the resolution or like dropping the refresh rate at 60 Hz and the silent profile, helping you increase the battery life. Today game like Dead Cells or 80s will support 120 Hz. Battery life is the biggest issue with the machine. It has a 40 watt battery life like the LCD Steam Deck, but now you're playing the latest game on it. So a game like Starfield or Red Dead Redemption 2, the sweet spot were like 1600 by 90. I could get between 40 to 70 FPS, but the battery life lasted 53 minutes. Same thing for Red Dead 2, but this time I put it in 1080p 120 Hz, only 31% usage for the CPU and 53 for the GPU, but the battery died after 54 minutes. That's for the 25 watt profile. For the 15 watt, I try a game like Lies of P, and 1600 by 900, I could get at low setting between 90 to 110 FPS and playing for an hour and a half. Now, of course, if you're playing indie game like 80s, you can play for 2.5 hours and also try YouTube at 1080p at 60 Hz. And then after 2 hours, the battery was at 71%. Not another workaround you can do is to play the cloud version of some of the game, like Starfield. You will feel that like there's a little lag when you do that, but then instead of draining like 30 watts from the battery, I was at 11 watts. So this way you could play it for 3 or 4 hours if you use the cloud version. So how would I play the Ally? Well, it depends. If I know in an hour that I can be next to an outlet, then I can play a AAA game. But if I'm traveling, then I would probably use like a 2D game like 80s or Dead Cell, because I know that I will be able to get 2 or 3 hours of battery life. It's really like the Game Gear, a portable console that needs to be plugged in to enjoy the most. Another issue with the console is the disk space. I really wish that they would be custom profile, so you have the choice to download a 4K asset or not. Destiny 2 is 144 gig, 126 gig for Red Dead, same for Forza Horizon, and Starfield is 120 gig. Also try desktop mode. I plugged the Ally in my 34-inch 3400 by 1440 ultra wide monitor and switched to auto for the memory and the APU. I was using around 1.5 gig of RAM and maybe 4 to 5 watt in silence mode on Windows. After installing my drivers for my Razer mouse and keyboard, everything feels snappy. But of course, if you start playing on an external monitor, for 2D game it was fine, but then when I tried to push resolution for Red Dead and Starfield, it was a real slideshow. Now let's talk about emulation. In this video, I'm not testing everything, because up to the GameCube, the console is so powerful that you should be able to play them without issue. So I want to focus more on the GameCube, Switch, PS2 and PS3. On the PS2, Gran Turismo 4 play fine in 60 FPS using RPC S3. For the PS3, I tried Red Dead Redemption, and without changing any setting or optimize, it was between 20 to 30 FPS. I would need to adjust the setting and their website that give you all this information, but you could see that you should be able to play PS3 game, but just don't expect always to have like a 2x resolution and 60 FPS. For the Nintendo Switch, I wanted to compare Super Mario RPG because it just got released. Everything runs smooth and I didn't have any issue. You can see here that I'm running it on my Switch next to my ROG Ally just to be able to compare at the beginning. I wanted to test Super Mario Wonder next because it would be easy to detect if the frame rate were not really like smooth. After the shader compile, I was able to play around 60 FPS. You can see here that like the speed is slower because it's still compiling some of the shaders, but eventually you can get it to play smoothly without any issue. I decided next to try Mario Kart on the GameCube just to make sure that like everything plays smoothly, and it was the case. I really don't expect any issue to while playing GameCube games. In the end, this is an amazing emulation console. You have enough power to play PS2, PS3 game without any issue. At least for the most part for the PS3. But at the same time, we need to be realistic on it. Like, you have a lot of different price point for emulation console. If you want to pay $150, something like the Retroid Pocket 3 will be fine, but you will be able to play some GameCube and maybe a little bit of 2D PS2 game. If you go around the 300 US range, you could get something like the Odin 2, which will let you play PS2 games. And then if you go to the 400 range, then you can have something like the Steam Deck, or for like 600 Canadian, you can get something like the ROG Ally. But of course they will perform way better, but it's like playing emulation on a gaming PC. The last thing I wanted to test is basically cloud gaming. I didn't expect any issue with it, knowing that you have Wi-Fi 6 and with a fast internet connection at home. that like I was pretty sure that like using Game Pass game I wouldn't see any problem, and it's the case. Starfield played great, but I could feel a little lag when trying to aim, and then I decided to try Forza Horizon 5 and just doing a regular race and trying to see if I could feel like the lag. The next video is to hear the sound quality using the speakers. They support Dolby Atmos and they do sound amazing. Here we have Lies of P. So where does that leave us? Well, I really like the ROG Ally Z1 Extreme. I thought I would return it after a week, but nah, I want to keep it. By the way, one great thing about the ROG Ally and the Legion Go is that they're available at Best Buy in Canada and the US. So you could go buy one, try it for a week or two, see if you really like it, and if it's not the case, you could just return it. The screen is amazing. Having a 1080p screen with 120Hz and VRR is game changing for a portable console. You could adjust the setting on the fly and be able to squeeze a little more performance if you can. I'm also very surprised by Asus. I didn't expect that they would support the console necessarily super well, but I have multiple like patch and BIOS update while I was testing the device. They just added like gyroscoping aiming and letting you turn on or off CPU boost in the November 30th update. I do feel that the console has a lot of raw power that you can use, and being able to use Game Pass PC, Epic, Origin, or any store you want, and be able to play your game is amazing. I think if a user with a Steam Deck library that is large, and you prefer playing or mostly older game, then a Steam Deck will give you a more console-like experience. But if you're a PC gamer that like to tweak your experience, play with the setting, then something like the ROG Ally is probably more for you. So what did I didn't like with the console? Well, first, battery life. I mean, it's fine if you just play 2D game, but only being able to squeeze an hour for a AAA game makes sense, but I still wish that like they can improve it on it. Also, the SD card issue needs to be fixed. A lot of people were reporting dead SD card, or the SD card would be not detected or ejected randomly. So if you send it back to Asus, they can change the motherboard. People on Reddit were saying that if you get a R8 or R9 version, which is basically it's the month where the console been made, that the issue is probably solved. Other user buying open box at Best Buy mentioned that like they were able to return the unit at Best Buy and get a new one. So at least you have option, but like those quality control issue need to be fixed in the next version. I do feel that Windows 11 is holding back the Ally performance. Now, Asus were pitching in marketing that you get 2 times the performance in a Steam Deck, and it's not really the case. I do feel like that, like, yeah, there's some performance gain to do. I really didn't turn off any service or the Windows 11 telemetry because I wanted an out-of-the-box experience. I'm sure I could optimize better and change some of the setting, turn off all the widget, and there's question about the space. Why is Windows have Office installed and is configured that way? But at the same time, I get it. It's a standard Windows install. So if you also want to use it as a laptop or a PC, the option is there. I also think that you need to take the review of the Ally with a grain of salt. Depending on when the console got released, it's a little like the Steam Deck at the beginning. There was like patch that would go every week or every month that would fix the rough edge of the issue. So the review are all over the place. You can see 3 on 10, another are 9 on 10. So I think it's a good idea to try the Ally and see for yourself.
I also wish that we could experiment with SteamOS or Linux firmware just to see if we could get extra performance out of it. This also made me really excited about where the handheld PC market will be in 1 or 2 years, with new generation of processor and APU, producing less heat and having better performance by watt. I'm also really curious about the Switch 2 and how it will perform with DLSS. I'm hoping for more third-party support and able to keep the Nintendo console-like experience. Thanks for watching.